Alright, so, like I said, again, if no one wants to be, so my phone is facing this way, so if you're on that side, you should be good. But, I just want to record this lecture. So, like I said, the two parties today, Democrats, Republicans, use that in the context of thinking of this, because that is Washington's warning. Alright? So Washington feared political parties would split up the nation. Do you think our nation is split up right now? Yes or no? Yes, right? Do you think it's due to the political parties in the country? Right? Could be. Alright, so he believed, and if you look at your quiz in excerpt C, remember he talked about unity. He said being united as one was essential. Alright? He's not saying you shouldn't have disagreements or opposing views, but he's saying to watch out for the hyper-partisan aspect of it. Okay? You don't want to get too divided and too split up, because that's where all the tension and all that stuff boils up, and that's, one could argue, is what we are living in right now. Alright, so he believed unity was essential for survival. Next slide. Why did the parties form? So again, he knew Americans were going to disagree. No one said that you shouldn't have disagreements or things like that. But obviously people are going to disagree on the role of the government, okay? And we learned about anti-federalists and federalists before break. That's kind of where this started. They had different interpretations of the Constitution. Anyone remember what the anti-federalists wanted to protect? It was on your test. I don't remember. It was the lesson we did when Miss Ash came in here. What did anti-federalists want to protect?
They wanted, like, they didn't want, like, a strong
they did not want a strong federal government. Why?
So they wanted to, like, maintain their rights.
They wanted to protect their individual rights and freedoms. So anti-federalists believe that. Federalists said, we want a stronger government for that. So then, during that time period, as we creep up to the end of Washington's presidency and the 1800s, different leaders began organizing support from each side. So again, think Democrats, Republicans today. So think you have leaders speaking for Democrats, you have leaders speaking for Republicans. So that started to form right around 1800, right? So we have, all right. So the first one we're going to start with is Alexander Hamilton, who was a Federalist. All right, he wanted strong national government. He believed in a loose interpretation of the Constitution. Okay, he did favor a national bank and the economy, industrial economy, but we're going to skip that for now because we're going to get to that in a couple months. But what he wanted was he wanted wealthy and smart leaders to rule us. When I say us, pretend you live in the late 1700s, early 1800s. So he was a Federalist. So he wasn't really in favor of the idea of a strong constitution. He kind of wanted people to be under this wealthy and educated leader system. And a lot of people followed him. A lot of people agreed with that. They said, not a bad idea. But then you have the opposing view, which is Thomas Jefferson, okay, who was a Democratic Republican. So he, like Justin had said, he wanted limited federal government. He wanted to protect individual freedoms. He wanted a strict constitution, and he was a big proponent in states' rights. We're going to learn about that once we get into his stuff next week. But he trusted the people of the country to run the government. Hamilton did not. All right. Do you think? How do I put this? Do you think our leaders and politicians today trust our citizens to run the government? Honest opinion. Or do you think they could run the government or can't run the government? What do you guys think? Anyone? So again, Jefferson was all about that trusting just ordinary people running the government. He wasn't in favor of elite. Now, it's a little hypocritical because Jefferson was very rich. He owned a ton of slaves. He lived on one of the biggest plantations in the country at the time. So he was one of those wealthy and educated leaders, yet he was proposing for something else. All right, so that's the main fundamental difference. You have the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. Now, the Anti-Federalists morphed into this, okay? So as the years went on, and then you're gonna see throughout the rest of the second semester, these parties start to change, and some of the ideas kind of flip. The party names start turning into something else. All right, so we have one slide left. So the two visions for America at the time, and tomorrow we're going to get into the election. Okay, so they both ran for president. So Hamilton again, remember he wanted a strong federal government. He wanted rich and educated people to rule the ordinary citizenry in the country. He favored cities and industrial economy. Jefferson, yet he was an elite. He wanted strong states. Like Justin had said, he was in favor of protecting the individual freedoms and liberties of the person and the government not to do so. Okay? But again, that's why there is a divide. All right? Both of them believed they were doing the right thing. And that's kind of what you see today with the modern day Democrats and Republicans, is that we both think we're doing right, but there's obviously going to be disagreement. All right? Anyone have any questions on Hamilton, Jefferson, on Federalist and Democratic Republicans? No? It's a pretty straightforward concept, not too difficult to remember. Like I said, if you enjoy Hamilton, the musical, a lot of the stuff is going to look familiar to you based off of kind of the dialogue that's in that show and things like that. So, alright, so here is what we're going to do. It is 9:06, so we have about 20 minutes left. There is a activity in Canvas. It is a T-chart. Alright, you're going to look at, and this is online research, so you're going to look at Jefferson and Hamilton. You're going to fill out what was their role of the government. We already covered that. What did they want? What was their interpretation of the Constitution? What was their economic vision? Who did they believe should hold the power? What were their view on political parties? And what were their foreign policy views? You're going to use your resources online to compare and contrast both of their beliefs. Then there's two critical thinking questions. One about Washington, kind of similar to the do now. He's going to kind of ask, was his warning justified between political parties? And then, whose ideas do you think Washington would agree with more? Okay, so answer those two. And then finally, your exit ticket. I was going to have you guys do it on paper, but it's just easier to do it all on one sheet. Which vision for America do you agree with more? If you were living in that time in around 1800, whose view would you agree with more, or whose America would you want to live in more? Because remember, these guys were both running for president. All right, so tomorrow we're going to cover the election. So you're going to kind of see how it panned out. So you have about 20 minutes at about 9:15-ish. We're doing 9:18, so 10 minutes. I'm going to check in with everyone, see where we're at. This is an independent activity. All right, we did partners yesterday. This is on your own. This will be due at the end of class. Make sure we complete it. All right. If you want to listen to music, you may. Yeah, go ahead and get to it. We're going to go over some of these in about 10 minutes.